Welcome to this webinar on how to improve the productivity, right? With only 33% of the employees, we all know, no, during this lockdown, and now that we are starting this production after the lockdown, uh, most of the the guidances from the government is saying, okay, we have to operate with 33% of the employees. In many cases, like less than 50% of the employees, right? So in this kind of a situation, how can I improve the productivity with 33% of the employees? Can I at least do 50% of the production, right? So that there is a 20% more, right? So that is the whole theme of this particular webinar. Thank you very much for attending this webinar, and this webinar is going to add tremendous value to you by helping you to understand the waste and focusing on reducing them, right? We recommend you to provide your honest feedback at the end of the webinar, and we would be you can share this webinar to your friends and contacts in the industry, so that they can also get benefited. We will be conducting these kind of webinars regularly, and you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel and also be a part of our exclusive community called kaizenclub.co.in in LinkedIn, where we share a lot of stuff related to lean manufacturing. A little bit about me. My name is Anand, and I am the managing partner and principal consultant of Hash Management Services. We are a boutique business advisory company working with manufacturing companies in implementing lean manufacturing initiatives. So that's our niche area. We don't do anything else. We don't do any ISO 9001, 14001, those kind of certifications. We don't do HR, recruitment and training. No, we are very focused on lean manufacturing. So that's the only thing we do. And we do consulting. Training is a little, a smaller portion of our overall, the businesses. But we're mainly focused on consulting activity. And over the last 10 years, we would have worked with more than 100 companies in their lean journey, creating a lean journey for them. And we have trained more than 10,000 professionals on lean and related topics. This is a part of the classroom session, which normally we do for the companies. And some of our clients are VKC Group, Venus Water Heaters, Paragon Footwear, JK Tires, Amaron Batteries, Farida Group, etc. We help in implementing lean tools like continuous flow system, fibers, single minute exchange of dies, Pokayoke, Kaizen, Kanban, line balancing, a lot of other lean tools. I'm basically a mechanical engineer with post graduation in marketing and operations from IFMR. I work with Titan Watches as a senior engineer, and I also work with Deloitte's consulting practice as a consultant. Before, I'm running this company for the last 10 years. I'm on my own, and I'm running this company for the last 10 years. And our mission is to work with more than 100 companies per year on implementing lean, to train more than 1 lakh people on lean manufacturing every year, and to touch more than 1 million people through social media, especially through YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So this is our mission. And I'm going to give you a quick 20 seconds where you can type your name, education, and your city or company. Couple of people, few people have given your introduction. People who are joined after that, people who are now joining, maybe you can give a quick introduction about yourself, so that we all know who you are and what you do. Just 2-3 sentences from about you. You can type in the chat box. I'm going to give you 20 seconds. You can type your name, where you work, and where are you from. Yeah, people who have done it already, no need. We know you. So yeah, good evening, Mr. Lakshman Singh. Good evening, Mr. Arun. Mr. Sudhir Deshpande. Good evening. Lakshman Singh from Wheels India. Okay, good. So Kuldeep Verma from Senior Engineer Wheels India. Okay. Okay, Mr. Arul Ram from Godrej. Okay. So Vijay Singh Patel. Yes. Good evening. Nagnath, good evening. Mr. Dheeraj Rathod, okay, from Spacewood, okay, good evening. So Sudhir, Tata BSL, okay, Tata Steel, okay. I think a few people have already attended our program. Yeah, I can see some familiar names here. Good evening. Good evening. Okay, yeah. So thank you very much. Thank you for giving a quick introduction about you. Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Karthikeyan, Foxconn, okay. Ashish from Spacewood, okay. HCL, okay. A lot of people, okay, good. So Sridhar, good evening. Yeah, good evening, Sridhar. I can see your post. Okay. All right. So we'll move on. All right. So what we are going to cover in this webinar, right? In this webinar, we are going to look at 5 major things. A quick introduction to lean manufacturing. We are going to learn about work versus waste. We are going to learn about the 7 types of waste which are present in all the company, and the biggest poison which is present in every company, right? and what is the one magic pill to solve this biggest voice. That's what we are going to learn today. And at the end of this webinar, I'm having a small gift for all of you people who are sticking with us for the entire webinar. You will be getting a special gift, right? That I will reveal at the end of this webinar, right? And we are also going to complete this webinar with a set of action points. This webinar is not going to be like I am going to teach you something and you can just complete the webinar and walk out of the webinar. No, there are going to be a set of action points which we are going to do together, right? So at the end of this webinar you will go with a set of action points which you can go and implement in your shop floor. So that's the idea of this particular webinar. I'm again trying this for the first time now. Action points, creating an action point. So it's going to be a lot of interactive session activity. So I want you to have your full participation for the next 1.5 hours, right? All right. So why this webinar is important, right? You can start reducing the waste or the non-value adding activities in your company. You can use the available manpower for value adding activities. See, that's the whole agenda of this meeting. With less manpower, how can I improve the productivity? So I have to use the manpower to exactly the value adding activities. So we should eliminate a lot of these non-value adding activities and focusing on more producing more with less manpower, recover faster from the impact of lockdown. So that's the whole idea, and become competitive and journey to become a world-class company. Right? That's why this webinar is important. And some of the guidelines before we get into the program, I request you to participate without any major distractions. You can take a notepad and pen because I'm going to give you some exercises, right? So if you don't have a notepad or a pencil or a pen with you, I'm going to give you 10 seconds. You can quickly go and grab a notepad and pen, right? And don't type anything in the chat box during the presentation. I would ask you to type something every now and then. During the time, you can type in the chat box. Otherwise, don't use the chat box. And before you type anything, you can change the settings to all panelists and attendees, right? And there is a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, so we can discuss a lot during that Q&A. And these are some of the guidelines. So I think everybody will be with that notepad and pen, right? I'm going to give you another 5 seconds. Go grab a notepad and come quickly. Right? So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we'll go to the program. So let's get started. Right. So what is this lean manufacturing? Right? Lean manufacturing is a set of management practices originated in Japan, which are useful in eliminating non-value added activities and help in improving the productivity in a faster and efficient manner to the pull of the customer and continuous improvements. If you can look at carefully, there are 3 sets of words which I have underlined. The first one is eliminating non-value adding activities. Second one is the pull of the customer, and third one is the continuous improvements. Right. So these 3 are the major foundation of lean, and we are going to look at these non-value added activities in detail today. Right. So let us learn about that. What is this lean manufacturing? Lean manufacturing is a concept started by Toyota, and they started in the early 60s, and they perfected it over the next 20 years. And the Western world, they tried to adopt the same, and they renamed it as lean manufacturing. And essentially, if you look at, it's a Toyota production system. People can use Toyota production system and lean in a similar way. So essentially, it's a Toyota production system. Let us look at this history of lean manufacturing. What happened in 50s and 60s is, after the World War II, Japan's economy was in a very bad shape, and the country as a whole wanted to improve. So the government gave a lot of incentives and uh, steps to. The government took a lot of steps to build the economy, and a lot of companies have started manufacturing automobiles, because automobile manufacturing is one of the key industry which will impact a lot of other industries, the ancillary industry, and directly and indirectly, right? So it has a big impact on the overall economy. So a lot of companies started entering to automobile manufacturing, like Toyota, Honda, Suzuki, Yamaha, everything. Toyota, if you look at, earlier they were doing textile machinery business. Even now, if you look at, a lot of textile machinery will be from Toyota. So when Toyota as a company entered automobile manufacturing, they didn't have the technology. So they want to have the technology. So the Toyota's chairman visited America to understand the automobile manufacturing, and essentially he visited the big three companies: General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler. And what he observed was American cars at that time, I'm talking about the 50s, were very big cars with large engines. People call them as gas guzzlers, and those kind of cars will not suit Japan, because Japan as a country was very poor and they're starting to rebuild the economy. So what he understood was these big cars will not be a great idea for Japan. And second, America was a large country with a lot of land and resources, but Japan was a very small island, so they don't have a lot of resources. Everything in that at that time was has to be imported, right? So the companies with large batch production, with a lot of factories with huge warehouses to store the WIP, all those things he observed, and the Toyota's chairman came to a conclusion that this kind of manufacturing is not going to work in Japan, and they want to build the cars in a different way, right? So what Toyota started building in the 60s and 70s is they started producing, having small factories which will create multiple versions, multiple car models within the same plant. They try to reduce the WIP through just in time production. They run small batches of cars by reducing the changeover time, the faster development cycles, right? At that time, I'm talking about 60s. uh, uh, a car in America will have only a 10-year lifetime. Only after 10 years there will be a upgraded version. But Toyota wanted to break this, and they created new versions of the car once in 3 years or 4 years, and they want to do the right quality products at the right time. So essentially Toyota did reliable cars which are small cars and which gave a lot of mileage, and a lot of new versions started coming in, right? So people started liking these Toyota cars, and in the 80s a lot of Americans started buying these cars, and the market share of Toyota's cars and other Japanese products in general, they became very popular, and the market share of the big three car companies, they started falling down. So what these car companies, GM, Ford, and Chrysler, they did is they sponsored a lot of research, and through the universities, they sent a lot of researchers to Japan to understand how Toyota is manufacturing their cars. So because they thought, okay, these are the people who came to us for learning automobile manufacturing, and now they are producing their cars are much better, giving more mileage, less breakdowns, right? So how they are doing these cars? So a lot of these researchers came to Japan in the 80s. They started learning these principles, and they went back to US in the 90s and started taking this learning to the automotive industry. And that's how and when they went to these American car companies, they cannot use the word Toyota production system, right, inside a General Motor plant or a Ford plant. So they want to have a different name, so they created a term called lean manufacturing. So in 90s lean manufacturing became a kind of a big activity inside this US car companies. And after 90s, in 2000s and the early 2000s, it started spreading to a lot of other countries also. In India, if you look at a lot of automotive companies like TVS Group, Bajaj, Hero Honda, a lot of companies have started following this lean manufacturing from 2000s, the last 10 20 years. But what essentially we are following is the Toyota's production system, renamed as lean manufacturing system. If you look at a lot of other companies like big companies like Siemens, for example, they have their own manufacturing system, Siemens manufacturing system. If you look at Alstom, maybe they will have Alstom manufacturing system. But essentially, if you look at all those best practices from Toyota, the Toyota manufacturing system, that will be there. They just repackaged it, and every company started creating their own manufacturing system, which is essentially the Toyota manufacturing, right? So this is the brief history of lean manufacturing. Is lean applicable to all the industries? Yes, very much. Lean philosophy can be applied to all the industries: automotive, machine shops, castings and forgings, plastic companies, fabrication units, medical devices, leather footwear, food processing industries. A lot of companies can use this, and it doesn't matter whether your company is small, medium, or large. Lean can be applied in all sizes of companies. Can lean principles be applied for service industries also? Yes, very much. A lot of hospitals and hotels in the Western world have started adopting lean principles. A lot of logistics companies, restaurant companies, people are starting to use lean in the service industries also. Right? So this is a quick history of lean manufacturing. If you have understood the introduction, can you just type yes in the chat box, please? Is my communication okay? Are we going too fast, too slow? Is this okay or not okay? Can you give a quick introduction? Can you just say yes? All right, all right, all right. Okay, can understand, right? Okay, good. I can see a lot of yeses here. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. All right, so we'll go to the next section. I hope everybody has their notepads and pen, right? We are going to have some exercises. So if you still don't have a notepad and pen, I request you to take your notepad and pen. Right? All right, so we are going to the next section. So great. So we are going to learn about the work and waste. Right? What's the difference between work and waste? Because this is the most important thing. Because Lean talks about the elimination of waste, and only if we know what is the waste, we can eliminate them or reduce them, right? So this is the most important realization that is required in Lean implementation. And in our consulting programs also, this is the first foundations we create. Right? Once you identify the waste, it's very easy to eliminate them. Right? So let us look at this work and waste. Let us consider two type of persons. Two persons. One person is a obese person, and another person is a lean and a fit person. A obese person has a lot of fat in his body, right? A lean person will have a lot of protein in his body. He doesn't have fat, so he has a lot of protein in his body. What will happen to this obese person? What are the common problems faced by obese person? Like lack of stamina, they will have health issues, they'll have higher BP or cholesterol, high risk of heart problems, or they have difficulty in walking, running, climbing staircase. So a lot of these common issues are faced by this obese person. And how to become lean, right? How to remove this fat? They can do exercise, they can do diet control, they can do jogging, walking, yoga, meditation. They can do some kind of medical procedures like liposuction where they remove the fat from the body. So a lot of these methods are available for this obese person to become a lean person, right? So when we eliminate the fat from the this obese person, this person becomes a lean person. Similarly, all the companies have a lot of fat in their operation, right? If we remove these fats from the companies, from the operations, they will also become lean, right? But identifying this fat in a human body is very easy, right? How can I know that I am getting obese? All I need to do is I can see the mirror, right? My clothes won't fit. My friends and family members will say, you're getting no fat. My clothes. So it's very easy for a person to understand that he or she is getting obese. But how will we know whether company is having a lot of fat? Your operations has a lot of fat. How will you know, right? We normally see a lot of these results, right? We will not be able to deliver on time. There are a lot of these defects or rejections. People are always firefighting. So all these are results of the fats which are present in the company. We normally try to look at the results. We try to eliminate the result, but the root cause is the fats which are present in the company, right? So we need to eliminate the fat or reduce the fat so that we get the companies or the operations become lean. So that's what we need to understand. So in a company's parlance, protein means work and fat means waste. If we reduce the waste, right, the company also, the rate of work will also improve, right? So this is what we need to learn now. So let us look at this work. Work means whenever there is a physical or chemical change that happens in the product. So that's what we call it as a work. There is a physical or chemical transformation. That's a change which happens in the product, right? The traditional definition of lean talks about what the customers are willing to pay for. Work is what the customers are willing to pay for. That's slightly difficult for a layman to understand, right? But when we say whether the physical or chemical change that happens in the product, that's called work. It's very easy for people to understand. When there is a physical or chemical change, which means we are adding some value to the product, right? So it's called as a value adding activity. Imagine your sheet metal which is present in a raw material store, and you are doing a stamping operation. You will not sell the stamped piece the same price as the raw material price because you have added some value, right? there is some work which happened. There is a physical change that happened to the product. There is a deformation, and for this deformation, you have added some value, right? So this is called as work. So work means value adding activity, which means what is a waste? Right? Waste means when there is no physical or chemical change to the product, is called as a waste. Any activity, any step, when there is no physical or chemical change to the product, it's called as a waste, because we are not adding any value. The product is just idle, or there is no transformation that is happening in the product, right? So there is no value addition. So it's called as a non-value adding activity. There is no value addition, right? So if you carefully look at, more than 95% of the time a product spends inside the factory will be a waste. More than 95%. Only less than 5% would be the real value addition time. This is across all the factories, most of the factories. Right? Even Toyota, if they observe, their work versus waste will be like 30% work. They still have like 70%. So that's the number which they are now talking about. So in a regular normal factory, when where we look at in an Indian context, more than 95% of the time would be a non-value adding activity. So let me give a quick example. Consider a batch production. Right? The batch size is 1,000 pieces, and we are doing a stamping operation. In this stamping operation, the value added time will be like generally 1 second, because that's the time for the punch to come and hit the component, right? Because we will be loading the component, and there will be a the punch and die will hit the component, and there will be a deformation. So this will be normally like 1 second, and after that, this first piece will wait for the remaining 999 pieces, right, to get completed, so that this entire bin will go to the next operation. So this is like 1 second value at a time, and the remaining 999 seconds are non-value added for this particular product, because this product is waiting for the next operation, right? There is no physical change which happens during this waiting time, right? The value at a time, the change happens only for 1 second. Right? This is the way we look at it, right? Work means when there is a physical or chemical change. Waste means when there is no physical or chemical change. We'll also look at a video to understand this more. I'm going to play a video now, right, where there is a small, cutting operation. I'm going to play it now. Take a look at the value adding time. So till this time, now he has loaded the component and the wheel is, traveling. So now it starts cutting, and the cutting activity is over now, and the wheel went back to the home position. And now the operator has taken the component and left. There is still the scrap, or the chips which are still lying there. It's a waste, small piece, and the machine is also idle. If you look at this video is for 18 seconds. The work is for 5 seconds. That is the time when the wheel touches the component and does the cutting, right? So that time is only for 5 seconds. What is the remaining 13 seconds? The time taken for the component to be loaded, the time taken for the movement of this wheel, all those things during that time. Is there any value addition that happens in the product? No, right? So these are all called as a waste. It is not possible to eliminate all the waste, right? We cannot eliminate all the waste, but we can reduce a lot of waste. There are some waste that can be eliminated, some waste that can be reduced. Right? We are going to look at this waste in detail the next section, but I hope that all of you are clear about this work and waste, right? So can you understand this work versus waste? Can you just type yes in the chat box if you are clear? Can you type yes in the chat box, please? Yes, great, amazing. Okay, okay, all right. A lot of people are saying yes, great. So thank you, thank you. A lot of people are saying yes, thank you. And now we are going to do a quick exercise, right? I want you to take your notepad and pen, list down what are the work in your company, what are the activities which constitute the work, what are the times when you have work in your company, right? If your operation has like 5-6 operations, stamping, or what do you say, turning operation, heat treatment, then powder coating, curing. I'm just giving some random operation name. Just write down your activity and write down what is the cycle time for that. It's 1 minute. The time actually taken for the value addition. What is the real value adding time? What is the time the component spends inside the machine or in that process, right? So what is the activity? What is the cycle time? What is the activity? What is the, if you have 10 operations, you just quickly note down your 10 operations. It doesn't matter if you don't know the cycle time, exact cycle time, doesn't matter. Just note down, approximately like 1 minute or 30 seconds, 40 seconds, like that. Maybe I'm going to give you 1 minute, so you can write it down in your notepad. Yeah. If you are done, you can say yes, completed, or DONE, done. I'm going to have a stopwatch timer. Yes. Okay. Mr. Raghavendra, your process runs in shift. It doesn't matter. See, you just have to write down your activities and give your cycle time. That's all. It doesn't matter whether you are running in shift or not in shifts. If you have 10 operations, write down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. See, you don't have to complete it. Even if you are like 80% complete, okay. I'm just going to give you some guidelines. At the end, we are going to discuss. Write down your activity, cycle time, activity, cycle time. Right? If you're not clear on something, yeah, Lakshman Singh says 24 seconds, 19 operations. Okay. I mean, 24 second is what? So you have total of 19 operations, that I can understand. 24 second is the lines, okay, line or cycle time. Okay. Okay, good. So which means all the operations are less than 24 seconds. That's what I can understand, Mr. Lakshman Singh. Is that right? So the line cycle time is 24 seconds means, okay, all the operations are like 24 seconds. Okay, good. So the line is balanced. All right. So I think a lot of people have completed their exercise. People who are not completed also, no problem. Have this exercise with you. Maybe tomorrow, once when you are going to your factory, you can complete it. All right. So I just want to understand, like, what are the various activities, and that is the work. What is the actual work which is getting in your factory? What is being done in your factory, right? And what is the actual cycle time? In most of the cases, if you add the cycle time and compare it with your overall lead time, which you promised to your customer, it will be like less than 95%. If the activity takes like 2 hours, if you add like 10 or 20 operations, even if you add everything, it comes to, let us say, 2 hours. But the lead time you promised to your customer will be like 15 days, because there will be a lot of batches. Unless it's a process kind of industry, process oriented industry, like cement or glass or paper industry. Right? If in a discrete manufacturing, that's what we promise. So a lead time will be like, uh, more than 95% of your cycle times. All right, so let us go to the next section. So now we are going to focus more on the waste, right? As a lean consultant, I'm not going to focus on the work part, because the work is done by the operators and the existing team, which is like super. They know, they are the experts. They know entire operation part. They are very clear on the work part. My job is to focus on the waste part, because we are going to reduce the waste. We are not going to increase the work. We are not going to increase the work percentage. We are going to eliminate the waste, so that automatically the rate of work will increase. Right? So as a lean consultant, as a lean practitioner, I am focusing on the waste. Right? So let us look at this waste in detail. There are three types, three categories. Right? It's called muda, mura, and muri. These are all Japanese words. Let us look at these words in detail. Muda means non-value adding activities, right? The activities which doesn't add any value. Second, mura means the process variations, and muri means the fatigue or the strain caused to people and machines due to overburdening. So let us look at this muda, mura, muri in detail. So first, let us look at this muda. Muda means the non-value adding activities. In a typical lean manufacturing parlance, there are 7 types of waste which are present in all the companies. People have now started 8th one also, but let us first focus on these 7 types of waste. We can easily remember them as TIMWOOD, TIMWOOD: transportation, inventory, motion, waiting, overproduction, overprocessing, and defects. These are the 7 types of waste which are present in all the units. Let us look at each one of them. So let us first look at the transportation waste. Transportation is moving the component or the product from one location to another location, right? Is there any value addition that happens? Is there a physical or chemical change that happens in during this transportation? No, right? The location only changes. So transportation is called, we call transportation as a waste. But can transportation be completely eliminated? No, transportation cannot be eliminated, because even if we create we can arrange, if we create a better layout like continuous flow system where the machines are close to each other, transportation will be there. We can reduce the transportation, but we cannot eliminate the transportation, right? So how can you identify this transportation waste? Whenever you see a lot of materials, lying around in the factory, whenever you see a batch production, there will be a lot of transportation. When you see a lot of conveyors, forklifts moving the materials here and there is a lot of transportation, right? So how can we reduce this transportation waste? By having a better layout, by removing this zigzag movement of materials, by having these machines and the machines and operations arranged in a product layout, so that the product flows from one machine to another machine. If you if you visit a factory which is like slightly older layouts, like 10 years or 20 years old factories, they will have something called as a process layout. Process layout is where they have grouped the similar type of machines in one location. For example, all the drilling machines will be in one location. All the CNC turning machines will be in one location. Maybe the presses will be in one separate plant, press shop. Right? So, which means they can operate only in batch production. They don't have a choice because all the machines are grouped like that. So, the entire bin has to be moved from one location to another location. There is no product flow. There will be only a batch production. These kind of units, there will be a lot of transportation waste, right? Let us go to the next waste, that is inventory. Inventory is the stock which is present in the company, right? How can we call that as a waste, right? Because there is some value to that. How can you call that as a waste? During this inventory, is there any physical or chemical change that happens in the product? No, right? Inventory generally has three major classifications. The first one is raw material waste, raw material. The second one is the work in progress, and the third one is finished goods, right? So during this raw material stage, right, the materials are stored in the raw material stores. Is there any change that happens in the product? No, right? Similarly, during WAP, when the machine, when the materials are present in between the machines, is there any change? No. Same thing with FG stock. Is there any change during the FG stock phase? No. So inventory, we consider inventory as a waste. Again, inventory cannot be completely eliminated. Uh, there are companies which have started trying to eliminate inventory. Like if you look at automobile OEMs, I will give an example of Hyundai. Hyundai's plant is present in Chennai, outskirts of Chennai, and they have all their tier one vendors. The tier one vendors are the people who are directly supplying the components to the OEM, and all these tier one vendors, right, they will supply the materials only when it is required for the shift. Right? There is a concept called milk run where the vehicle will go to multiple units, get the materials, and then supply to the factory at the required time. By this way, the OEM is avoiding to store, right? They don't have to stock the materials, because they cannot also. If you look at a car, if you take a tire, right? A car will have four tires assembled in the car plus one tire as a spare, right? So each car will need five tires, right? Hyundai, for example, in a day they produce like 1,000 cars on one shift. I'm just giving a number. I'm not sure. I think it's very close to 1,000. Even if it's 1,000, even if they want to have one shift stock, which means 5 into 1,000, like 5,000 tires. 5,000 tires they have to stock, which is a very, very, very big a space requirement, and they are not going to do it. Rather, what they did, they will have their vendors, the companies which are supplying to Hyundai, like it may be JK Tires, Apollo, or their vendors. They will have their warehouses very close to the plant, and there will be a milk run concept where they will be bringing these tires. I'm just giving one part as an example, right? So by this way, the OEMs are trying to go to a stage of less inventory. They are trying to reduce their inventory holding, right? So this is what I want to explain in this inventory. So inventory, let us look at it as a waste, right? I'm not asking you to throw the materials outside. Right? It is a stock which we have purchased and stocked, store it in our raw material store. But it takes space, it takes a lot of effort in managing. Right? So we are going to revisit this inventory again at a later part of this webinar. So let us move to the next waste, which is motion waste. Any movement of people that does not add any value to the product. Right? What are the times when people move inside the factory? Right? People has to stand or sit and they have to work, right, in their particular workplace. Why should people walk or move in their location? People move to take materials, people move to take the tools, people move in search of tools, people climb the machines and do some cleaning activity. Sometimes the reloading happens, no, and sometimes the people put the components in the floor. I have seen many companies where they load they put the component in the floor and they will take the material from the floor again. Even if they have to do 500 pieces per day, which means the person has to bend 500 times. So this is going to cause a lot of physical discomfort. It will cause a lot of fatigue, and overall the productivity will reduce. And during this motion time, there is no real value addition that happens in the product. So this is how you can spot a motion waste inside any factory. And the fourth one is the waiting waste, the idle time in which there no value addition takes place. Let us look at three major resources. The first one is the material, second one is the mission, and third one is the manpower. If one of these resource is waiting for any of these other two resources, it's called as a waste, a waiting waste. So if the machine breaks down, no, the material will wait for the machine. Similarly, the manpower also will be waiting for the machine. Similarly, during a changeover time, the material will wait for the machine and manpower also will be waiting for the machine. And during absenteeism, you will have machine, you will have material, but manpower is not available. Sometimes machine will be available, manpower will be available, there is no raw material. So when one resource wait for any of the other resources, it's called as a waiting waste. I have seen some example of a person uh, uh, working on a CNC machine, right? So this person's job is to load the component, and he will close the door and he will switch on the process. So the machine starts working. It's a CNC machine, so there is no need for any manual input after that. But this person, after loading and switching on the machine, will be just watching the machine run, right? So this itself is a waste, right? So this is a waste which commonly I observe in most of these machine shops. So when one resource waiting for another resource, it's called as a waiting waste. And now we are going to look at the fifth waste. It's called overproduction. Overproduction means producing more than the customer's demand. This overproduction happens in two levels. The first level is on a company-wide level. Right? We're working with a company which manufactures garments. If the customer order is for 1,000 pieces, they will plan for 1,020 pieces, right? Because these 20 pieces they will add for as a cushion, because they may have some rejections in the processes. So they will add these 20 pieces more than the customer's order. So this is a clear overproduction which happens in most of the units. The second level of overproduction is producing more than the internal customer's demand. The internal customer here is the process which is next to my operation, right? Uh, for example, if the process A, that is my operation, the cycle time is 1 minute per piece, and the process B, right, which takes 2 minutes for one piece, the cycle time is 2 minutes. After 1 hour, I will produce 60 components, right? But process B will complete only 30 components because the cycle time there is 2 minutes. So what happens is these 30 components will be present in between process A and B. They will be the WIP, work in progress. When the cycle times of the processes does not match, it creates a lot of WIP, right? In this case, process A is producing more than the internal customer's demand, right? The internal customer's demand is 2 minutes per piece, but I am producing at 1 minute per piece, which means I am producing more than the requirement, which creates WIP, right? So 30 components will end up as WIP in between process A and B, right? So this is a overproduction. So overproduction means producing more than the external customer's demand as well as the internal customer's demand, right? And the next waste we are going to look at is over processing. Over processing means the efforts and activities that are added to compensate for some of the inefficiencies in our system. a traditional lean definition talks about processing more than the customer's demand. They gave an example of the surface roughness. The customer asks for a particular surface roughness, but we produce more uh, uh, better surface finish. That is one level. But over processing, if you look at it, it happens in many stages. There are. I will give you an example. We work with a large tire company. What happens is they have multiple sections. The first section, once the product the product gets completed in the first section, they have to deliver it to the next section. And when they deliver, they will do a inspection, right? And they will do a counting or a weighing activity, and they create some documents, and they will pack it. They will wrap it with a polythene paper, and then the material is given to the next section. And when the next section, when they are taking the materials, they again do a counting or weighing activity, and then they do an inspection. They call it as an incoming inspection, and then they have to remove the plastic wrapper, and then they have to again create a document, and then they start producing. So this is what happens in multiple stages. So whenever there are multiple counting, multiple inspection, multiple packing and unpacking of material, right? All these things we call it as over processing. The customer doesn't care about all these activities. We are doing it because we don't trust the previous department, or the process is not still foolproof or mistake proof. Earlier there may be some kind of case of mismatch in terms of weight or mismatch in terms of quality. So that's the reason why they are also doing an inspection, we are also doing an inspection. If the process or if the products come in a perfect stage with proper counting, with good without any defects, we don't have to do multiple inspections, right? So uh, this is an example of over processing. Inspection itself is a waste. Uh, the inspection itself is a over processing, because we are doing this inspection. Is there any change that happens in the product? No, right? We are just ensuring that this product meets the specification. So there is no physical or chemical change that happens in the product. So uh, multiple inspection is clear case of over processing. But how can we eliminate inspection itself, right? That is a slightly on a deeper level. We can discuss it later, but make sure. But the concept is very clear, right? Inspection is a over processing. It's a waste. Inspection doesn't add any value. We are ensuring that the product meets the specification. That's all. If all the if your processes are uh, are in a way that it doesn't create any defects, you don't need to have inspection, right? So that's the ultimate objective of lean. So we'll not discuss it now. We'll go to the next waste. Defect. Producing defective components, components which are not meeting the customer specification, that's called as defect or defective. So a defect, there is a difference between defect and defective, right? A defect is the actual issue, the problem with the product, right? If you take a casting, or let us say I will give an example. This is a shirt, right? So I'm wearing a shirt, and this company produces this shirt. Let us say there is a small mistake of they missed one button, right, in my this sleeve. So there is a button which is missed. So this is called as a defect. The button missing becomes a defect. Similarly, they may do a wrong stitching. That is another defect. Because of these defects, this shirt became a defective shirt, right? So the defective means the product which you are producing, that's called as a defective. The defect means the real issue, the problem with the product, right? So defect here is the button missing, the improper stitching, that is the defect. And because of these defects, the shirt become defective, right? So there may be one defect or more than one defect in a defective product, right? But it takes a lot of time and effort to rework. Sometimes you can do rework, sometimes you cannot rework, so the component will end up as a scrap. So defect is the seventh waste which is in any company. And these are the 7 ways which are present in most of the companies. And now we have covered so far the muda, right, the non-value adding activities. And now we are going to look at mura. Mura means the process variations, right, in the operations. Again, it happens in 2 levels. There are some companies where you may be experiencing this. So the first week of the month, the production will be very low. They will be producing with like 50% of their capacity. and in the last 10 days, they will do overtime, Sunday work, all those things, and their volumes will be very high. So there is a clear case of mismatch in terms of the production, the execution of production, the planning, everything. So this is one level of process variation, the company-wide variation. And the second one is, in a process also there are a lot of variations, right? Let me give an example. In a CNC machine, the first component or first 10 components which take out from the machine versus if you take out another small sample from after like 200 cycles or 500 cycles, there will be a specification change because the tool would have started this wear and tear. We need to do this insert changing. So every time there is a change, right? Every time there is a change, it creates some process variation. Similarly, in an assembly operation, for example, the person who is working on the first shift, and he is doing a tightening of a screw, right? And the torque given by this person versus the second shift, there is another, let us say, a women employee. She is working in that particular operation, and the torque given by this lady may be different, right? It's a clear case of process variation. Sometimes the person who is doing the same shift, during the first hour of the shift, he will give a different torque, and maybe at the end of the shift, the last 1 hour, he will be already tired, and the torque given may be different. So there is a process variation which is happening in most of these operations, and these process variations, they will give rise to a lot of muda also. Many times, if you look at, the defects will come from this process variation, right? uh, it may cause some small stoppages in the mission, like a small breakdown, which means it will again add some waiting overproduction, right? So Mura is responsible for some of this Muda also. So the process variation again happens in two levels, one a company wide level and also the operation level. And then we are going to look at this Muri. Muri means the fatigue or the strain caused to people and machines. What happens when we overload this people? Right? When people need to lift a lot of weight and they have to transport it. Right? Sometimes I have seen people taking a lot of weights and climbing stairs. They will be loading it in their warehouses. What's going to happen is they will get tired faster, and there will be a possibility of a lot of accidents. Second one, if you look at overburdening of missions, what will happen when we overload the machine? The machine will start vibrating. They will start creating some noises. After some time, some days it starts leaking oil, coolant, all those things, and after some time it breaks down. There will be a lot of breakdown of machine also. So Muri means the fatigue or strain caused to people and machines. So because of that also we are losing the productivity. So these are all the three types or categories of waste. Muda, we looked at the 7 waste, Mura and Muri. So are we clear on this? No, Muda, Mura, Muri? Can you just say yes in the chat box, please, if you are clear? All right. All right. Good. A lot of people are there saying yes, yes. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. So now we are going to go for a poll. Okay. So I'm going to launch a poll now. It will be there in your computer screens or in your mobile screen also, right? All you need to do is select your answers and submit. Okay. I'm going to launch the poll. It should be in your computer screens now. Yeah. A green color box. A green color box is there. Just select your answers and submit. There are three questions. Right? Just select your answers and give your answers. When there is a physical or chemical change in the product, it's called dash. Excess inventory is a waste, dash. When a machine is in breakdown, what waste will get created, dash. So a lot of people, yeah, people have started answering. A green color box is there in your chat box. Thank you very much. Yeah, so far like 18, 19, 20, 20 people have answered. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Vinay. Thank you, Mr. Sridhar. A lot of people have started answering. Yeah, I'm going to end the poll in another 15 seconds, maybe. Thank you very much, Mr. Raghavendra. Thank you, Mr. Yogesh. Thank you, Mr. Vinay. Yeah, 33 people completed. Yes. Sudhakar Sharma, yeah, thank you very much. Mr. Kamal, thank you. So great, amazing. So I'm going to end the poll in another 15 seconds or 10 seconds. Yeah. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and stop. Okay, I'm ending the poll. Thank you very much for answering. How many of you want to see the results? Type yes in the chat box, please. Why yes? Type yes. I will show the results. How many of you want to see the results? Okay, I'm going to share it in your screens. Yeah, it's there in your screens. Let me quickly read out the answers. The first one is when there is a physical or chemical change in the product, it is called as work, which is right answer. The red one is the right answer, correct? So 92 percentages of people have given that. Some people have said waste. 3 people, okay. And next question is excess inventory is a waste, which is true, correct? So 97 people said yes, is true. That's the right answer, the first one. When a machine is in breakdown, what waste will get created? Waiting waste, right? Machine breakdown means materials will wait and the people also will wait. So thank you very much for giving this answer. Thank you. All right. So stop sharing. Thank you. And now we are going to go to the exercises. Okay. Next 1 minute I'm going to give. Take your notepad and pen. List down the ways which you can identify in your organization. See, we looked at the 7 ways, Mura, Muri, everything, right? So if you have these ways in your organization, if you have these ways in your organization, can you just write it down? In your factory, in your operation, what are the ways you can see, right? Take 1 minute, you can write it down. Mr. Kamal, waiting was not visible, okay? Can we discuss that? Waiting is the waste. Uh, okay, the answer is it? Okay. The correct answer is waiting waste. You know, when breakdown was when there is a machine breakdown, it creates a waiting waste. All right. So can you complete the exercise, please? 1 minute. What are the wastes which are present in your organization? You can write down transportation, okay, overproduction, waiting waste, motion waste, over processing, multiple inspections, which are happening in almost all the companies. Wherever we go, we see this multiple inspection, multiple counting, overproduction, presence of a lot of WAP, the waiting waste, transportation waste is there. Yeah, Mr. Yogesh, you can write it down. You can create your own list. List down the waste which are present in your organization. Right? You can write at least 5. 5 ways. The 5 ways which are present in your organization. Yeah, Mr. Abhishek, yeah, I can see your chat comment. Inventory waste also generated because of MOQs, minimum order quantities, lead time, especially for imports. Yes, yes, just write it down. Yeah, which means you have a lot of stock inventory. Sudhakar says all the 7 ways we have in the organization. Yes, most of the organization have all these ways. Rework, yes. Ms. Anjali Kavatekar says rework. Yeah, rework is there. A lot of defects are getting created, so we need to do reworks. Yes, Mr. Sudhir also says all the 7 ways. Yes, just note it down. Okay, just note it down. Yeah, Mr. Ramanathan says defect, over processing, waiting. Just write it down in your notepad. Write it down in your notepad. Right. Most all waste. Yeah, Mr. Nagnath says a lot of wastes are there. Mr. Shubham says all the wastes are there. Mr. Naresh says waiting transportation. Yeah, okay. Write it down in your notepad, Mr. Naresh. Yeah, Mr. Mukundan says inventory, waiting, overproduction defects. Yes. So Mr. Raghavendra says we lose time in searching, which means people motion. Yes. Eighth waste. We will discuss that, Mr. Karthikeyan. Mr. Nabil says all of them. Raghavendra says yes. Mr. Yogesh says multiple times packing. Yes, multiple times rework. WAP, waiting for raw material, waiting for electricity. Yeah. Okay. Uh, waiting for electricity. What is that? Okay. Uh, more power cuts in your area? I don't know. So Mr. Vinay says all types of waste are present. Okay. Ms. Anjali says waiting not material. Okay. Okay, meeting not material bins are not available. Ms. Anjali says bins are not available. Waiting for tool. Okay. Yeah, sometime power cut, Mr. Yogesh. Yes, I can understand. Yeah. So good. So I'm pretty sure that most of you have written down here in your notepad, right? Don't just type in the chat box, right? After the webinar, you could not locate this chat box, and it will be with us. So just note it down in your notepad, right? So we are going to take some action at the end of this webinar. So note it down in your notepad. Yeah, Mr. Ashok says all the 7 types of waste is present. Lakshman says motion, breakdown, waiting, transportation, changeover time. Yes, most motion waste is also there. Okay, all right, good. A lot of manpower shortage. Yes, at this time, Mr. Abdul Hadi says yes. All right. So let us go to the next section. So far, what are the things we did? We learned two things. The first one is the difference between work and waste. So in the first exercise, you have listed down the work. What are the actual value adding activities you have noted down? Second exercise, right? We have understood about the waste, and now we have done an exercise on what are the wastes which are present in your operations, right? So most of you have given a lot of waste. Some people said, yeah, all the 7 wastes are present. But even then, if you can write it down, what are the locations? For example, transportation, if you identify where exactly from this particular section to that section, you can note it down, right? So when you go to the factory tomorrow, you can take some action. So that's what we are going to look at. You can be more specific so that no, we can take quicker action. Don't just write all the 7 ways, which means where will you go and take action, right? So you can be more specific. Specific is terrific. That's no, the more you know create specific, if you write down specific ways, it's very easy to go and take action. So be specific, you can take a lot of action, right? So I'm sure that a lot of people have written their answers. So let us go to the next section. Yeah, this is the most important thing in this whole webinar. The biggest poison which is present in every company, right? We have looked at the work versus waste and the 7 ways, Mura, Muri, etc. But what is the number one waste? The biggest poison. We call it as a mother of all the wastes, right? We call it the mother of all the wastes. And let us look at this inventory again, right? I said earlier that we are going to look at this inventory again. So let us look at this inventory. Inventory typically has 3 major components: the raw materials, then WIP, and the FG, right? Which are FG is materials which are ready for dispatch, right? So let us look at this RM and FG. In most of the cases, the industry determines the stock position. I will explain this in detail. For raw material, for example, we have worked with a couple of mango pulping industries, in Dharmaburi and Krishnagiri areas. These mango pulping industries, the mango, the raw material, is available only for like 3-4 months in a year, right? So, and so what these companies do is they during the season they will buy mangoes in bulk and they stock it so that they can run the plant for 3-4 months, and with the existing raw material stock they can run the plant for another 3-4 months. So overall in a year they will run the plant for like 7 months or 8 months maximum. After that there will be a shutdown of the unit, and then they wait for the next season. So in this case they don't have any other option but to buy these mangoes and stock it. They don't have a choice because the raw material is available only for a particular season, right? Similarly, if you look at finished good stock in some of the industries like air conditioning units, right? The peak season of sales, right, is this summer season, right? The March, April, May will be their peak season in terms of sales. But to meet this sale, the company will not be able to produce in the peak season. But what they do is they produce like 2-3 months ahead of the schedule, the peak season, and they stock their entire warehouses and their downstream channels. I'm talking about the wholesalers, retailers, stockists, super stockists, the entire the pipeline, the sales pipeline. They will fill it with the material, the finished goods. Right? They will sometimes I have seen companies they take entire warehouses for during the peak season to stock the material, right? To cater to Chennai, some company in Delhi or Gujarat may take a warehouse in Chennai only for the peak season to meet the demand in Chennai. So they don't have a choice but to store a lot of FG, right? In this case also the FG stock will be very high. and only it will be very high only for this peak season. After the season ends, the stock position will come down, right? So most of the cases, if you look at the raw material stock and the FG stock, it's the industry determines the stock, right? For example, some steel products manufacturing company, if the global prices of steel is very low, and if the company predicts that okay, in the next 2 3 months the price of steel will go up, it's up to the senior management to buy more steel at a lower prices and stock it, because the steel prices are determined by the global commodity prices, right? So companies take that position. It's the industry which determines the stock position. But let us look at this WAP. Why we need to have a lot of WAP? Right? What are the issues with WAP? Because WAP are the materials which are not going to be sold immediately, but we have added some value addition. We have done some value addition, right? But it's not complete yet, and so it is then work in progress. What are the common issues with having a lot of WAP? WAP takes a lot of space, right? If you look at, I have seen companies where there are not much space available. Everywhere we see a lot of WAP will be there. In between the machines, wherever they find some space, they will have WAP, right? So WAP takes a lot of space, and it's very difficult to account them. How will you confirm or arrive at a price for a WAP material? Right? The costing department will say some number, the finance department will say some other number, the production team will say some other number. So it's very difficult to arrive at a particular value for the WAP. It's very easy for raw material and FG, because raw material stock, you know the price, at what price you bought it. FG price, right? What price you're going to sell it. But it's very difficult to arrive at a price for the WAP. Third one is defects or quality issues. Most of the times, a lot of these defects or quality issues will be hidden in WAP. If I am the operator of a machine and I am doing some activity, and if I get a lot of defects, what I would do, and I have a lot of WAP nearby, I will just exchange it, right? I put the defective component inside and take a fresh component outside, right? I don't want to reveal that a lot of defects are arising in my operation, right? And after like 1 month or 2 months, if they are opening that particular bin and saying a lot of defective, then I can easily say I didn't do it, I don't know who did it, right? So a lot of difficulties in managing these defects or quality issues will happen, and the excess manpower required to monitor the WAP. I have seen in a couple of factories where they have manpower like 2 3 people. Their daily job is to walk through the factory floor and update the WAP status, and they will send a report to the senior management, and they're called as inventory controllers. And this is what happens because there is a lot of WAP. We need extra manpower to monitor them, and there is always a risk of product obsolescence. Product obsolescence means whenever the customer changes the specification, there is a small technical change in the product. What will you do with a lot of this WAP? You cannot ship it to the customer, right? So there is a change. So this product will get obsolete. So there is a risk of product obsolescence. And finally, there are a lot of these confusions in the workplace which will arise due to this WAP. The supervisors or the in charges who are working in the shop floor, they will be having a hard time running the plant, because it's very difficult for them to communicate with the people on, like, for example, if they plan product A 500 numbers and product B 600 numbers, the operators will do exactly the opposite. They will, because there are materials available, they will take whatever material they want to do and they will process it, right? So a lot of this workplace confusion, product mix-ups will happen. Sometimes wrong products may be shipped to the customer also because of WAP. A lot of these confusions. So a lot of confusions happen in the workplace due to this WAP. Because of all these reasons, we call WAP as the biggest poison which is present in every company. And WAP hides all your inefficiencies. Why we are still having WAP? We all know that okay, WAP is an issue, right? But still, why we are having this WAP in our plants? Because WAP hides all the inefficiencies of the plant. It hides the high setup times, it hides the poor quality of product, it hides the breakdown of machines, right? It hides absenteeism issue. A lot of issues, inefficiencies, or the waste in the shop floor is hidden by WAP. Let me explain. Imagine if your operations as a ship which is sailing through the sea, and all these inefficiencies like high setup time, breakdowns, high defect rates, everything is there in the seabed. If you have enough WAP, the operations will function. Nobody will bat an eye. high lead, because people are working. People seem to be working. But the problem is everybody will be looking like they are working, but still you will not be able to meet the customer's demand because a lot of defects, all those things will happen, the regular issues. The WAP hides these issues. For example, if there is a machine with large setup time, let us say a 3-hour setup time, right? What will happen if this particular shop floor doesn't have WAP? If I take 3 hours for changing the setup, uh, if there is no WAP, the next machine also will wait for 3 hours because there is no WAP, right? But what will happen if I have enough WAP? The other machine will not suffer. So before even doing this changeover, I will make sure that I create the WAP for 3 hours, and then only I will start changing over, right? So in this case, this WAP has hidden this 3-hour changeover time. Right? Similarly, WAP hides the breakdowns, WAP hides absenteeism, WAP hides the defects. All the inefficiencies are hidden inside this WAP. And what will happen if you try to remove the WAP? All the problems will come up. Right? If I say, okay, we should not have WAP, what will I do with 3-hour setup time? Right? The entire line will wait for 3 hours. Right? So immediately people will go back to okay, create a lot of WAP so that the next machine will not get affected. In this time only, the senior management or the shop floor people, the managers and supervisors, we have to be very clear that our idea is to reduce this changeover, not to increase the WAP. WAP reduction gives you an opportunity to reduce the changeover time. But normally what we do, we increase the WAP and we come out of this situation. We try to okay, we will do it later. We cannot eliminate the changeover time. We cannot reduce the changeover. That's a idea with which we operate. So what I'm trying to communicate is WAP hides all your issues, and if you try to reduce the WAP, all your problems will come up, and again there will be a pressure or panic in the shop floor, and you go back to the previous stage of having higher WAP. So there is one magic tool, right? So this is what we learned. So there will be pressure to go back, and what will happen? See, there are a lot of companies where they have implemented this lean tools like SMED or TPM, TQM. There are a lot of companies where they do this TPM, TQM initiatives, right? SMED initiative for this year. After some time, after like 1 week or 1 month, all these initiatives will fail. There will not be any sustenance because if there are a lot of WAP, why should I go and reduce the changeover time? There is no pressure for me to go and reduce the changeover time, right? So because I have a lot of WAP, why I should do it in like less than 1 minute or 10 minutes? I don't have to, right? Because I have WAP, which will make sure that the next operations, the downstream operation will not suffer. So till the time I have WAP, any lean activity will not be successful. That it will be failure only because people don't have the pressure to continue that. People don't have the pressure to sustain it. Only if all the WAP is reduced, the lean activities will get sustained. So the first thing, the magic pill to solve this problem is we're going to go to the magic pill which will solve this WAP issue. That's called as continuous flow system. Right? If you have a continuous flow system, if you have a line, a single piece flow or a continuous flow system where the product moves from one operation to another operation in a sequence, without any waiting. Immediately the product is taken to the next operation like that. If there is a flow, all the waste will come out, right? There is no transportation. Only the transportation here is just going to the next operation. So transportation waste has reduced. No need for WAP because the material is immediately going to the next operation. No need for waiting. Over processing will not be there. Over production will not be there. Defects can be immediately found and immediately corrected. So a continuous flow system will eliminate the WAP and it will bring out all these inefficiencies. Right? If there is a high changeover time, let us say we have 5 operations and machine 3 has a 3-hour setup time. What will happen for the 3 hour? The entire line will wait, right? So in this time only, we will go and reduce the changeover time of this machine number 3, right? So the first thing is we establish a continuous flow system. Then all the inefficiencies will come up, right? And then we have to use specific tools to address those inefficiencies. Only then we can reduce these inefficiencies. We should not go back to the previous stage of having a high WAP. right? So if you look at carefully, all these lean tools are built for a particular purpose. SMED is for reducing the changeover time. Why we need to reduce the changeover time? Because in a continuous flow system, I cannot have a machine with very high changeover time. So I use a tool called SMED. If you look at Fiverr, reduces the searching and people movement, right? So everything should be in my workplace so that I don't have to walk around or search for the tools. So Fiverr is one tool which will solve that purpose. Breakdown of machines. If there is a frequent machine breakdown inside a line, the entire line will stop. So now I have to use a tool called TPM to make sure that the breakdowns are reduced, right? And all these TQM, quality initiatives, right? I should not make a quality defective product, because if I make a defective product, the entire line will stop. So I have to, all my processes should be created in such a way that I don't create a defective product. So if you carefully look at each and every lean tool, they are all built for a specific purpose, and all these lean tools will work only if there is continuous flow. If you don't have a continuous flow system and you try to implement a changeover time SMED program, people will do it for 1 month or 2 months, and after that they don't follow that, because there is no pressure for me to do it, because I have WFT to help me. WFT will hide all these inefficiencies. So this is the magic pill to improve the operation. The continuous flow system. By implementing continuous flow system, we have observed most of our clients place 25% to 30% improvement in output. That's what we have observed in almost all the cases. In some cases, it's more than that, 45%, 50% plus, without doing anything. We have not done anything extraordinary there. All we did is, from a batch production with different previous layout, process based layout, we created a continuous flow system. We just did a line balancing. Output will start coming with more than 30% improvement. So this is the magic pill to improve your productivity, right? So all the other lean tools will work together. So continuous flow system is the foundation on which you create the other lean tools. Without that continuous flow, no other lean tools will work. So this is what we wanted to cover in this webinar, right? So we have learned now about continuous flow system and also the biggest poison, that is the WAP, right? So continuous flow system is the foundation of all the lean activities, right? So have you understood the impact of WAP? Can you just type yes in the chat box, please? We are almost at the coming to the end of the webinar. Yes, yes, yes. Was it useful? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, I can see a lot of people saying yes. Great, amazing. Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Abhishek asked something, how to manage if continuous flow not possible. Yes, there are some cases where we cannot have a continuous flow system. Yeah, heat treatment, exactly. So we need to have some supermarkets, and we have to have supermarkets and Kanban. That we can, let's slightly the next level, Mr. Abhishek. We can discuss it offline. Yes, there are some cases where the continuous flow is not possible because the machines may not be designed for a continuous flow system. It's a batch processing machine, heat treatment. It can be powder coating, curing. Some activities will have high cycle time. Some activities will have very low cycle time. So we need to have. There are some techniques which are available, like supermarkets and all that. It's slightly the advanced level. Uh, we can discuss it maybe in the next session also. Yeah. Thank you. So what we are now going to do now is we are going to have an exercise, right? And I request you to go back to your notepad and list down, does your company has a lot of WAP? List down the operations which are creating this WAP. Where exactly this WAP is getting created? Why? Because the setup time is high, because there is a lot of breakdowns. Why you are having this WAP? Just write it down. What are the operations that are creating this WAP? Right? Can you just write it down for the next 1 minute, please? We can discuss that. What are those operations which are creating this WAP? Every company is going to have a lot of WAP. I am very sure, because we are all in the discrete manufacturing, most of you. So you are having a lot of WAP. So where exactly this WAP is getting created? Why you are having this WAP? Just write it down. What are those operations which are creating the WAP? Why? Because the changeover time is high, because the breakdowns are happening, because this particular machine creates produces a lot of defects. Some machines are so unreliable that they frequently produces defective components, right? Every now and then the operator has to do some tinkering so that the defective components is arrested. So the reliability of the machines. So maybe you are doing some assembly operations where people are constantly forgetting something, something is missed out, which is creating some defects. So why you are having a lot of WAP? Yeah, you can write it down in your notepad, Mr. Sudhir. I can see your post breakdowns, bottleneck machines, not balanced, more defects. Yes, 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 yes. All right, all right. So we are completing the 1 minute. I think most of you have written the reasons for WAP. If you have written your reasons, can you just say DIVO done? Done in the chat box, please. All right. A lot of people are saying done. Okay. Yes. All right. Very good. Super. Abhishek sir says done, done, are done. Okay. Done, done, are done. All right. Okay. We'll go to the next slide. Okay. So see, we are coming to the end of this webinar, right? What are the things we learned so far? We learned about an introduction to lean manufacturing, a quick history of lean manufacturing. We learned in detail about work versus waste. Then we learned about the Muda, Mura, and Muri, the 7 types of waste that are present in all the companies. Then we looked at the biggest waste, the mother of all the waste, right? The WAP. And then we also looked at how to solve that waste, the magic pill, like one magic pill to solve that waste. It's called as continuous flow, creating a continuous flow system. Right? There are some challenges in implementing this continuous flow system. Some people are like saying like, some machines are not designed for that. Some processes are not designed. Sometimes the lines are imbalanced. So how can we do it? So these are all slightly, advanced level. First, we are talking about creating a flow. Then we have to address all these things. There are some specific tools to address these problems. For example, if the line is not balanced, there is a tool called line balancing. How can we make sure that all the operations inside the line are more or less having the same cycle times, right? So that's called as a line balancing. We are having some techniques like creating supermarkets wherever we are not able to have continuous flow system, right? So there are supermarkets technique, Kanbans, right? That when we are using a supermarket, we will be using some Kanban to create the flow, the production and withdrawal Kanbans. So a lot of these tools are available, right? So, but this particular webinar, the idea is to create a list of ways and take an action plan so that you can go and start implementing in your unit. So what next? See, what you have now in your hand is a notepad with a lot of action points, right? So you got the list of ways, where exactly you can go and improve, right? So I want you to go and take action. When you go to the factory tomorrow, just start working on these activities, the waste activities. If you are a part of the lean team, right, a lean implementation team in your company, you have now where exactly you can go and start working. If you are a part of senior management team, now where exactly this WAP is present, all these things. So we have given you a basic guide or a set of action points for you to go and take action. So I request you to go and take action from tomorrow. I'm going to introduce an online video program called Lean Champion course. It's a 7-day program, right, with certification. 7-day online video course with certification. What it covers is it has in-depth knowledge on the fundamentals of lean, right? Value stream mapping, which is the first lean tool which anybody uses to map the entire process, and then only we'll start creating this continuous flow, start eliminating the waste. So VSM is the first lean tool which anybody should know if you are starting with lean in career. So VSM is there. 5S step-by-step implementation is covered, and 10 important concepts. All these are covered in the Lean Champion course. And once you complete, you will have the confidence in taking up large projects in Lean, and you can become a true Lean champion in your organization. You can have the ability to train other people also in Lean, and you can show tangible results in your Lean projects. Right? So these are a few testimonials from our customers, like a person who's working in Yeton Pondicherry, finally, mechanical engineering graduates who are from IIT, IIMs, they are doing it, right? What are the contents of this Lean Champion course? The first one is the basics of lean manufacturing, which we have covered now, in these 2 hours, right? This is there in the Lean Champion course also. The history, work versus waste, summon waste, biggest point. See, generally we take a session for a company, a manufacturing company, for about 10,000 rupees. I'm just putting a nominal amount here. But this we gave it for free because we want you to get benefited. So this course is there already in the Lean Champion course. And second, we have a step-by-step approach to create current state and future state value stream mapping with the examples and exercise. And we regularly conduct this program as a 2-day program for large corporates company. We have done it for Mando, right? We have done it for a few other suppliers of Hyundai, and we charge about 50,000 rupees. But I'm just putting a nominal value of 20,000 rupees here for this example. Again, 10 fundamentals of lean manufacturing. We are going to talk about takt time, bottlenecks, Kaizen, Kanban, line balancing, load leveling, pitch, pacemaker processes, supermarkets, just-in-time production, cellular layouts. All these 10 concepts will get you going, right? Once you start creating a value stream map, all these 10 tools will help you in eliminating the waste, right? And these 10 tools are useful in creating a future state value stream map, because these tools are useful for creating the future state. That way you are going to reduce the overall lead time and start the improvement activities, right? So, and then we have 5S implementation, a step-by-step method to implement 5S in your factory with a lot of pictures, guidelines, and audit checklists also. So we normally conduct this program for about 30,000 rupees, for large companies, right? If you completely look at all these packages, it will worth about 60,000 rupees plus GST. And there are some bonus courses also for these participants, how to use LinkedIn in detail, right? Many people, if I look at LinkedIn profile, it's not very much updated. LinkedIn is one of the most important social media platform right now. If you are in Facebook, you are in Instagram, but if you are very serious about it, about career, LinkedIn is the place you have to be. LinkedIn is the Facebook how it was in 2011. Right now, everybody is in LinkedIn, right? And because of the lockdown, the LinkedIn usage is kind of skyrocketing now. And how to use your LinkedIn profile to attract recruiters and attract connections from the industry. So that is covered in this particular program. And how to create awesome resumes and documents using a tool called Canva. It's a free tool, which is a web-based tool, and we have gone in detail about how to create social media, flyers, brochures, your resumes, whatever you want to create. You want to create a project report, there are super templates available there. So all these courses are available for Lean Champion participants, right? So if you look at the worth, it's more than 60,000 rupees. We have listed this course for 4,999 in our website, right? And this is like more than 90% off. But only for you, only for the participants of this webinar, and only for the next 30 minutes, we are going to give this course only for 2,999, right? 2,999 plus GST. So at this price, it's a steal, right? I have gone through, my course is already also in Udemy also. I've gone through so many courses in Udemy on Lean. If you look at the price, it will be like 4,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees, but they just cover this 7 ways of Lean and some basic tools here and there. It will be like an automated voice which is just reading the PPT. But in this course, in our champion course, we have given so much of content like value stream mapping, 5S implementation, the 10 tools for Lean, and everything is explained in the way we have conducted this webinar, right? It was explained in a very, very simple language which you can go and take action, right? So there is a link which is there in the chat box. Thank you very much for participating in this webinar, right? You can reach us through the following ways. You can write to me at pananth@hashllb.com. Our website is hashllb.com. My phone number is there, 917661395. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel and our LinkedIn community. I'd like to thank all of you for participating in this webinar. A lot of good feedbacks for me. So thank you very much.